Hey guys, what's up? So in this video, we're going to look at Webpack Dev Server. Not going to do anything crazy, but we're going to set up the basics that you'd probably want to default to for most projects. The cool thing with Webpack Dev Server, right, is that when we're using regular Webpack, right, we started out with that. We would run the process. It would totally bundle up our files, right? And once they were done, then the process would exit and we'd have our bundles here, right? So regular Webpack is writing these files to disk, right? So in my distribution, I actually have these two bundles here. So you can imagine this is great for distribution. This is exactly what we want because we need those files. But when we're working and developing, right, that's not ideal. So we alleviated some of that with Webpack Watch, right? So the process doesn't exit, it stays watching our files, and when we make a change, it'll patch up that module in the bundle, and then we can refresh our page and see the new results, right? So that's much better, right? But there's two problems. First of all, we're writing these files to disk that we don't really need, because right now we're just developing. But when we actually need the files is when we actually, throw up our code on a server, right? So we're writing unnecessary files, and then because of that, the process is a little inefficient. And also, we still have to reload our page every time. And even if we're making CSS changes or, if it's in our JavaScript, right, we'll still have to reload the page. And I know that doesn't bother some people, but it really bothers me. So with Webpack Dev Server, it'll automatically reload for us. Okay, so without further ado, we can install it here. I'm installing as a dev dependency again, and it's just Webpack-dev-server. Okay. So there's not too much to it. Again, anything that we do in the config can be done in the command line, but you'll probably want to put it in the config, right? So in our Webpack config, right, we have a key called dev server. Okay, that is an object. Okay, and before we start filling this out, I just want to break it down and show you what it's like without these settings and therefore why we are using these settings. So the first thing I'm going to do is just run it. Okay, so again, I can run it like this because I have it globally installed. Just like with the past videos, I will show you how to set it up with npm scripts. So we're using our local version, but I'm just going to show you using this for now. Okay. All right. So it's built our bundle for us, and if you notice here, right, it looks just like the regular Webpack output, like saying, okay, I built these two bundles for you. These are the sizes, blah blah blah. And up here, though, you'll notice that okay, now we have this link, and it's saying localhost 8080 Webpack-dev-server, right? So content is served from here. Okay, this is important because if you look in this file or this link up here, right, we don't see this, right? We don't see the index.html that we've been working with. Instead, we get this thing, which if you notice is our file structure here. The reason this is happening is Webpack Dev Server, right, it doesn't know where to serve your files from. Or in other words, what is your public or distribution directory, right? So by default, it just goes to the root directory where you're running the process from. So if you notice, if I click on dist, right, now it finds my index.html and it loads everything up. Okay, and that's because by default, Webpack will look for, or Webpack Dev Server will look for index.html in whatever directory you give it. Okay, so in order to change that, right, because we don't want it to default there, we want it to default to our distribution file or folder. So we do content base, okay, and that gets a value of the path to wherever you're serving your files from. So in most situations, it'll probably be your distribution folder. But again, if your setup differs, you'll just basically want to direct it to your index.html. Okay, so in our case, it's exactly the same as our output path. Okay, so I'm just copying that over. So now if I save and exit out of the process and rerun it, So same thing, bundled my files here. And now if I click on that link, right? Great. So when I click on that link, it opens right up to my index.html. It doesn't go to the root directory. So that's great. So we got that good. Next thing. Okay. So if you notice this top bar here, right? This is basically by default, Webpack Dev Server will run your application inside of an iframe. Okay, so you're not just straight up running your application; it's being run inside of an iframe that Webpack Dev Server is running. Okay, so you're probably not going to want to use that, especially if you're working on styling and things like that. So in general, you'll probably be using inline mode. So inline true is all we have to write in our config for that. So I'm going to save it and rerun Webpack. Okay. So now, so you'll see here that a lot of other stuff is printed out to the console, right? And that's basically, so now that you're not running an iframe, you're running just straight up in inline mode, Webpack has to put all that code in your browser, right? So that's what all this extra stuff is. So you don't have to worry about it. Just be aware that this extra code is for inline mode because it has like the sockets code and stuff like that for the reloading. Okay, so nothing to worry about, and we'll fix that in a second. So I'm just going to scroll up here, and so now you'll see that this link, and if you notice, right, so content is served from here in the distribution folder now. Okay, so that's where we changed our content base, and inline mode is set to true. So you notice instead of it being localhost 8080 / Webpack Dev Server, right now it's just localhost 8080. So if I open that up now, you'll see it brings me right to index.html, and there's no extra bar or anything like that. This is just normal serving up that file. Okay, so perfect. So this, I mean, this alone here will be probably good enough for most setups, right? The only other thing I would suggest you could probably definitely do is here, we can do stats, okay? And there's a lot of different options here. You can read the Webpack docs because this is actually pretty straightforward, but you can read the Webpack docs if you want to try out some different settings. But if you don't want all that extra info here about like the bundles or anything like that, you can set it to errors only. So it'll only show you if there was an error on bundling. So if I rerun that now, you'll see it just prints out this, which is a lot cleaner looking, right? And same result. So that's a good setting. Again, there's other ones you can change it to. And now, so the other thing you can set up with Dev Server is the hot module reloading, okay? And I was a little confused by this at first. Basically, hot module reloading is an awesome part of Webpack, right? That'll, instead of reloading, patching up the bundle and reloading your page, it will actually patch up that module, but without reloading the page. So it'll kind of like re-inject the code for you. And so this is great for developing, you've probably seen this with the React. And it's something very advantageous to have. But the thing I did not understand is that it's not like built in natively, okay? So, I mean, the hot module reloading itself is, but hot module reloading only works if you're running a plugin that supports hot module reloading in your code, right? So someone actually made the Webpack, the React hot module reloader, right? So that's why you're able to use it with React. But there is no like native JavaScript like reloader, right? And it kind of makes sense because your code needs to know how to handle the change of modules, right? During run, after it's already been run, right? So I'm not going to really, the hot module reloading is definitely an awesome feature and it's easy to set up. But the reason I'm not going to show it in this video is because you'd have to have the plugin to actually use it. You can set it up in your dev and your Webpack config, but my point is it's not going to actually do anything unless you actually have a hot module reloading plugin specific for your code. Okay, but for example, in a later video, when we do CSS, right, the CSS loader, or maybe it might be the style loader in Webpack, that natively supports hot module reloading, because with CSS, it's way less complicated, right? You just re-inject some new CSS and the styles will load accordingly, okay? So that means you can see your CSS child changes without having to reload your page, okay? So that's pretty much it. Hopefully that bit about the hot modules made sense. And everything else did too, hopefully. So this is, again, this is nothing fancy, but it's all you need to make a basic change now. So if, while I'm running Webpack Dev Server, right, I can come in here and I can change something, what's up, guys, and if I hit save, it'll reload the page for me, and now it says, what's up, guys, right? So great. So now we've got a pretty great workflow going on. And last thing, npm scripts, right? So if you notice, again, just like with Webpack, right, if node modules.bin, we have Webpack Dev Server in here now, okay? So we can, in our package.json, we can simply just change our npm start command from webpack --watch now to webpack dev server, okay? So now if I exit out of here, I can simply just run npm start. And now instead, it'll run my Webpack Dev Server, my local version, and we get the same thing. Cool. So thanks for watching, guys. In the next video, we're going to take a look at the index HTML plugin, or the Webpack HTML plugin. See you next time.